From Florida.
Madam Speaker, I'm very pleased today to rise in strong opposition to H.R. 471, the Scholarships for Opportunity and Results Act, also known as the SOAR Act. I also am very pleased that my friend from Utah has, in the tradition of this committee, granted the time to our side. This legislation revives the District of Columbia School Voucher Program, a program that was allowed to expire after 5 years of failing to improve student achievement. My colleague said that there will be statistics on both sides. Doubtless that is true. I also have great respect that the presenter of the rule today is a school teacher. At least if somebody is going to meddle in somebody else's business, they ought to at least know a little bit about what they're talking about. Too many times in too many of our states, too many times in this place, many of us who are not educators, nor have we been involved, are making decisions about the education of folks or children when we should be being a lot more careful. Let me, for example, I'm sure that my colleague who knows his state well, as I know mine, and we know ours, all of us in this institution, I'm sure that he's mindful that in the last 41 years, voters have rejected private school vouchers every time they have been proposed. And interestingly enough, 2 times in Utah, I would urge my good friend. As late as 2007, Utah voted 62% to 38% not to have vouchers. And before that, they didn't just say, it was sort of like the District of Columbia. Incidentally, 89% of the people in a referendum in the District of Columbia in 1981 voted against vouchers. But in 88, Utah, 67%. It didn't change very much from that time to 07, which isn't very much time from now. So how dare we come here to tell these people that we are going to thrust upon them something they don't want without a single bit of consultation with a single member of the public officials in this community being consulted. Some might ask why we are here debating such a misguided, narrowly focused measure when violence is raging in the Middle East. Earthquakes and tsunamis have ravaged Japan, and our own nation's economy is kind of like sputtering along. Well, I suppose when it is one of the leadership of the Republican Party's pet issues, the people's work can always be put on hold. This matter is nothing more than a shallow attempt to once again appease the right wing of the Republican Party. Well, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, Congress's oversight of the district is not an excuse for political pandering to the Republicans' special interests of the day. De jure, my colleague used Leo DeRoe with and against Yogi Berra. And Yogi Berra reminds me, if I were to use an analogy, this is deja vu all over again. He and Leo would be proud that we are talking about it, Mr. Bishop. Whether it's gun rights, a woman's right to choose, or education policy, the district is not and should not be the dumping grounds for Republicans' ideological whims. My colleagues have already stripped the district of its limited vote in Congress. The least they could do is allow them to control their education system, just as every other jurisdiction in this country is able to do. The people of the District of Columbia did not ask for or want this program, nor were they, as I have pointed out, or their elected officials consulted. If they had been, I'm sure, the committee would have been told what many of us already know. This program is simply a waste of money. According to legislatively mandated evaluations, the D.C. voucher program failed to show any statistically significant impact on student achievement. This is in contrast to reading and math scores across the district, which did improve over the same period. Though my colleagues claim that this program serves students who would otherwise be stuck in failing schools without the resources to adequately meet their needs. Only about a quarter of the students using vouchers came from schools in need of improvement. Additionally, the Department of Education found that students participating in the DC voucher program were significantly less likely to attend the school with ESL programs, learning support, and special needs programs, tutors, and counselors. Further, private schools are not required to hold the same level of transparency or accountability as public schools. Rather than directing these funds toward improving all of the district's public and charter schools, as Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton has proposed, this program only serves 1.3% of the 70,000 students enrolled in the DC public schools. Though my colleagues may claim to have a newfound commitment to education, my friend from the Rules Committee being an exception, albeit for only a few select students, they have found this commitment. Let's not forget that just a few weeks ago, some in this body and most in the Republican Party were content to cut, and my friend just used the kinship of Pell Grants with this proposal. They proposed to cut federal funding for 9.4 million students, eliminate over 200,000 Head Start placements, do away with supplementary education services for 957,000 underprivileged students. I was just with the CEO of the Urban Leagues of Broward and Palm Beach County in my constituency, and they were talking about how drastic this is going to affect the constituency in that area of underprivileged students, and who they are seeing, and what the juvenile justice system is now reaping from this ill harvest that we thrust upon these people. Reduce or get rid of, they said, after-school programs for 139,000 students across this nation. On the one hand, Republicans go about the need for fiscal discipline. They refuse to negotiate on legislation to keep the government operating and propose billions of dollars in cuts to our nation's students. Yet they are perfectly willing to throw millions of dollars at a program that has proven year after year to be unpopular, inefficient, and downright ineffective. If my colleagues truly wanted to improve the district's schools, along with the schools across the nation, they will be bringing forth a measure seriously to reform the No Child Left Behind provision. But no, instead we're debating a measure that has no hope of becoming law, simply to appease the political whims of a few in the Republican Party. The American people, in my view, are tired of the majority using this institution to do nothing but spew ideological rhetoric. Madam Speaker, if we defeat the previous question, I'm going to offer an amendment to the rule to provide that immediately after the House adopts this rule, it'll bring up H.R. 639, Fair Trade Act, and I'm mindful that there will be speakers regarding same. The amendment will provide our government the tools to rein in unfair currency policies by the Chinese. I'm going to, at this time, reserve any further comments that I have after the following statement. It has been 13 weeks and still no jobs bill and no substantive plan to improve our nation's economy. When my friends in the majority are ready to get down to the serious business of improving the lives of all American people, we'll be waiting. I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Florida reserves the balance of